Hi and welcome to this amazing section that we are going to test our activities. Activities are containers of all interactions with the app. It is very important to test them to make sure they behave as they are supposed to. In this video, we are going to testing activity state. It's very important to trace apps in different lifecycle events and make sure it works well. To get started, we need to add a library to our project. I added Android X Core KTX library. This helps us with using activity scenario. As Google says, activity scenario provides APIs to start and drive an activity's lifecycle state for testing. It works with arbitrary activities and works consistently across different versions of Android framework. Please pay attention that you need to change the test instrumentation runner to Android X test runner Android JUnit runner. The other libraries that you need are runner and rules. Let's go for writing the test. In the project structure, you see we have two folders for testing. One of them is Android test and the other is test. The activity scenario test happen inside the Android test folder. Okay, here is where we start testing. This annotation talks about running the test with Android JUnit 4. Then we specify that it's a large test. We need to make a reference, which I'm going to use get rule, and I need a value named activity. I want to name it as activity rule. It is of type activity test rule. Inside it we have main activity, which is a class that we want to test, class.java. Then I want to write my first and simple function for testing. I'll name a function add test, which means this function is going to be tested, and I'll name it as returns true. Nobody. Now I forgot this, and now I want to test if how the testing process works. To run this test, we have to right click on the class and then run example instrument test. It starts building the app and we have to wait until it finishes running the app. Then we see that the test starts for testing this launching example instrumented test. Then it goes, you see the test is passed. It says that one tests have been passed. It had been installed successfully, and then you see that the test is passed successfully and the function we created is checked. Now let's make our test a little bit more complex. I will make another variable. The variable name is going to be rule, and I want it to be of type activity scenario rule. I'll specify the name of the main activity, class Java. Okay, now I want to create some functions to test different states of a life cycle. I want to create a test function, so I'll specify this annotation for test function. Then I make a function and name it anything like start activity, and then start activity, and then I'll create a variable named scenario, which does get the scenario from our rule and get scenario. Then I'll use this scenario to move my scenario to the state I want. Then I'll use lifecycle dot state dot I want it to be created now. Then I'll call the scenario again and tell this that recreate. Now I want to create another function so you can see that how it works. The other function is going to be test2. I'll name it as function destroy is going to have the same scenario, and it's going to have this line of code but with a little bit of changes that we want to make. This time, instead of going to create the state, we will go to destroy the state. Now let's run it to see what happens. Okay, it started testing. You see that activity has started and it's been destroyed and is correct. So all these three had been passed correctly. Now that we learned how to test different life cycles,